Bem, galera do UNBTV, a gente está aqui com mais uma exclusiva e hoje com a presença super ilustre aqui do Michael Graves, ex-integrante do Misfits, carreira solo, tem vários discos gravados e agora está aqui em Brasília junto com Mark Ramone no projeto Blitzkrieg. Olá, como é que você está, Michael?
Hello.
Ok. Vamos começar fazendo algumas perguntas aqui para ele. Eu queria saber de você, Michael, quantas vezes você já esteve aqui no Brasil, com Misfits ou carreira solo e tal?
This is my first time here, actually. Well, I came with Misfits for 2 days. It was South America. I don't know if it was Brazil, but we were supposed to play a show and it got canceled. So I mean, this is really my first time here, which is a big dream come true for me, because when the Misfits originally came here, when we were doing the American Psycho tour, obviously I didn't make it. I wasn't here, and what I've heard from a lot of the fans, a lot of the kids, that there are rumors that one of the reasons that I didn't come here is because I was afraid, and that I didn't like Latin people. I was afraid that I was going to get a disease or something, crazy stuff. And it just wasn't the case at all. It was a dream come true for me for that tour to have happened. The biggest audiences that the Misfits had ever played for, and it really reflected the success for me as a writer and as a composer for the Misfits. So any of those rumors is just not true. The reason that I didn't come here in South America all those years ago, it was because Jerry Only and I got into an argument, a small argument, and a few days later, Dr. Chud called me, and that Chud went to rehearsal, and when he got to rehearsal, there was a new singer, Mike Hideous. And he called me and told me what was happening. So I called Jerry, and we talked, and I said, I'm the singer for this band. This is my band too. If you think that you can just replace me, where I'm just replaceable by anybody that you think, then good luck to you, and you do it that way. And that's what he elected to do. I tried very hard to reason with them back then, and try to make amicable for everybody. But Jerry Only is very difficult. Very difficult. In America, the rumor was that I had quit the band to play ice hockey, which is ludicrous. I mean, it's just crazy. So.
Tem uma coisa que ficou muito característica, assim, que a gente nota nos Ramones. Por exemplo, quando você sai do Ramones, você carrega aquele sobrenome Ramones para a vida inteira. E quando você sai do Misfits, é aquela pintura de caveira, né? Eu queria saber se você ainda faz essas pinturas, mesmo cantando solo, assim.
I haven't put my skull makeup on in at least 2 years now. I haven't done it in a while. Usually, if I do conventions where I go and I sign autographs, I would put the skull makeup on. But I haven't come onto stage as that character in a lot of years. That character will return to the stage. Yeah. For sure, yeah.
If you sing my song and the dead rise up behind me, I can make the darkness weep and fall.
I think not having the makeup on has changed my performance in that I feel less maniacal. When I put the skull makeup on is a different character, is a much more psychotic, it seems, a much more maniacal beast. So not having that makeup on, there's still a bit of the craziness, but it's much more of a, I want to come across as a technical performer, both in my voice and physically on stage. So yeah, it definitely has had, I guess, a mental effect on me. I never believed that I would be able to get away from the makeup. I was always so afraid that if I came out on stage without that on, that people would just reject me. It was very hard, and it was very scary for me to step away from it. And looking back on it now, it's I'm so thankful. It's amazing that I've had the opportunities to do that.
50 tons of rock creeping hollow, oil in the ditch was fuck on fire. Deep dark cave of secrets, terror, death, and thrill. The fight that we must face is getting larger and larger. Threat is getting larger.
Eu queria saber de você, Michael, de todos os discos que você gravou, com todas as bandas, qual foi o disco que você mais gostou de ter feito, assim?
My favorite. It's a difficult question because it's like asking which is your favorite child. My favorite Misfits album was Famous Monsters, because I really, during American Psycho, I was very unsure of myself. I was still trying to figure out how to sing, to be honest with you. But Famous Monsters, I felt very confident. I really felt like a singer. I really felt like I had come into my own. So at the end of that record, I felt very proud. But my favorite album that I've ever done was one of my solo records called Illusions. And it's my favorite because I collaborated with a man whose name is Damien Eccles, and he's a death row inmate in Arkansas. And he and I created songs together, and he wrote to me from his jail cell, and composed lyrics, and we wrote songs together. The story of the West Memphis Three is a very long one, but there's so much tragedy, and there's a tremendous amount of sadness for many of the people that are involved in the story of the West Memphis Three, and to be able to create something positive and beautiful from such a dark, horrible situation was certainly one of the highlights of my career as well as my life. Convicted of triple homicide. They were convicted of the satanic ritual killing of 3 small boys. Back in my country, they were just given a new hearing, a new trial, to put up the new evidence that's been found, new DNA evidence. Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam is huge supporter and has done just so much for those guys, as well as Johnny Depp, Natalie Maines from the Dixie Chicks, Henry Rollins, Jello Biafra, and scores of other musicians. Matt Skiba from Alkaline Trio. Just lots of well-intentioned people and musicians trying to get justice where there has been none.
Você tem alguma história engraçada para contar pra gente com a galera mais conservadora dos Estados Unidos, assim, porque por causa do seu estilo de vida, com o lance do horror punk?
I think that my life is much different than people imagine. For example, sometimes at home, I work as an emergency medical technician. You know, somebody that, you know, when you get hurt, you call the ambulance, and I show up. There was one time a girl was in her house, and she was in high school, and there was gas leaking in her house. And I was working, I was on call, and I showed up to help her. And when I showed up, she thought that she was hallucinating. She couldn't believe that I was there to help her in that capacity. Again, the more conservative people believe that when, you know, they look at me and what I do for a living, that I'm, you know, rock star. I go home, I drink, and, you know, and party, but it's certainly not the case. So my life is much calmer than most people would imagine. Obviously, Basil Gogos was approached and sought after by the entire band because of all of his, you know, his famous Monsters work. I mean, he's a pillar of the genre, and to have an artist like Basil Gogos create an album cover for us was just it was amazing. He was a wonderful man. I spent time with him and loved to talk about his art. I bought one of his a painting of his that was very not like what he usually does. That was just very striking to me. It was great to be able to work with him. It's funny, you know, in the famous Monsters, you see I have blonde hair. Yeah. It was my way to rebel against what was happening in those days, you know. The Misfits are all black and black hair. And so, you know, to my rebellion was to dye my hair blonde, you know, the opposite of what was happening. But yeah, everyone says I look like sad clown.
Bem, galera, essa foi uma entrevista rapidinha, que é devido ao tempo, a nossa correria aqui, mas foi muito válido estar com o Michael aqui. Eu queria agradecer ele pessoalmente. Michael, thank you for the interview. Yes. Essa foi mais uma exclusiva UNBTV. A gente se vê na próxima. Um abração, valeu aí. Eu queria saber de você, Jerry. Vamos lá, deixa eu me concentrar aqui.